Good afternoon. My name is Cecil Chabot. I am the CAPP-Canada coordinator, one of two. I'll repeat this once we have all of our attendees in. But we are doing this bilingually, so we've got translation options. So you will find those options at the bottom and the globe symbol, and you can select the original language or English or French translations. So we'll just give it a little bit more time for people to connect because they're coming in just now. And I'll let Danielle, my counterpart, introduce herself as well.
Bonjour tout le monde. Mon nom est Danielle Morin. Je suis l'autre coordonnatrice du chapitre canadien de CAPP. Alors aujourd'hui, c'est une journée exceptionnelle cet après-midi. Nous vous offrons le service de traduction simultanée. Vous pouvez suivre la présentation dans la langue d'origine, soit en français ou en anglais, mais vous avez l'option en identifiant au bas de l'écran un globe terrestre et vous pouvez choisir d'entendre tout en français ou tout en anglais. Alors, on vous souhaite un bel après-midi et puis on va vous revenir dans quelques instants.
So we'll just give it a couple more minutes as people are still connecting, but not more than 2 or 3. All right, so I think we can proceed. And for those who've just joined in, my name again is Cecil Chabot. I'm one of 2 CAPP-Canada coordinators. Welcome to our launch or relaunch of CAPP-Canada as a chapter of the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation. So for translation, if you need it, there is a globe symbol and you can select original language, French or English channels to follow this. And I'll hand it over to Danielle Morin, my counterpart.
Bonjour tout le monde. Je suis l'autre coordonnatrice de ce chapitre canadien de CAPP. Et puis, cet après-midi, nous allons avoir l'occasion d'entendre des conférences, des personnes qui nous présentent de l'information, des prières sur la doctrine sociale catholique. Alors, nous aurons l'opportunité d'entendre ces présentations dans la langue d'origine, mais si vous identifiez le globe terrestre au bas de l'écran, vous pouvez aussi choisir d'entendre ces présentations en anglais ou toutes les présentations en français. Alors, on vous laisse ce choix afin de pouvoir suivre toutes ces intéressantes présentations que nous aurons. Merci.
So, the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation next year will celebrate the 30th anniversary since its founding by St. John Paul II in 1993. And we are today, on the eve of this anniversary, relaunching a Canadian chapter. Now, there was a previous group of CAPP members working in Canada, meeting in Canada, primarily in Montreal. This is back in the days before the pandemic and digital technology transformed our capacity to meet across the country like this. So this in many ways is a relaunch, and it's building very much on the work that they did in the past. Our ecclesiastical counselor as a parish priest was involved in that. And Peter O'Brien, our emeritus chair, was very much involved, and he's the one who introduced me to CAPP-Canada. We're really looking for today people who are interested in learning more about Catholic social teaching, yes, but of course, especially the mission of CAPP, and perhaps who would like to help us build build CAPP-Canada and the mission of CAPP as a whole. So for those of you who read my some of my reflections on the recent papal visit or our invitation letter, you will see one example that stands out for me personally, and for others as well, of the ways in which Catholic social teaching can transform Canadian society and our entire human family. So, Danielle, you have some other examples that maybe you have in mind.
Merci, Cisso. J'essaie de positionner un peu dans mes valeurs qu'est-ce que c'est la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Eh bien, je pense à l'Évangile de Jésus-Christ qui nous enseigne des valeurs d'amour, de charité, de partage, de générosité. Donc, la doctrine sociale catholique nous aide à mettre en pratique ces valeurs. Alors, notre foi et nos agissements ou nos décisions devraient être en harmonie. Et c'est souvent ce qui est mis en cause dans notre société. Donc, notre foi et nos agissements dans le monde devraient être au même diapason. Donc, cette doctrine sociale catholique nous aide à prendre des décisions, nous aide à informer notre société afin de vivre une unité de vie entre ce que notre foi nous dicte et ce que nous faisons à chaque jour dans notre milieu. Donc, c'est une responsabilité partagée et nous espérons que cette période que nous allons passer ensemble aujourd'hui sera fructueuse et pourra informer, ouvrir les yeux des personnes qui ne connaissaient pas encore cette doctrine sociale, mais qui la mettaient peut-être déjà en pratique. Alors, je vous souhaite un bon début de présentation.
And we will share some brief polls with you. We've got a first one that will appear on your screen in a moment while Danielle introduces our ecclesiastical counselor.
Alors aujourd'hui, afin de bien commencer ces présentations, nous allons commencer par la prière. Mais cette prière va être par notre conseiller ecclésial, Monseigneur Christian Lépine. Monseigneur Christian Lépine est né à Montréal en 1951. Il va célébrer son anniversaire de naissance demain, le 18 septembre, excusez-moi, le 18 septembre. Monseigneur Lépine a plusieurs années d'expérience comme pasteur et enseignant. Il a été ordonné prêtre en 1983 et a travaillé à la paroisse Saint-André-Apôtre. Il a débuté son ministère. Il a été à Rome à l'université grégorienne de 86 à 89. À son retour à Montréal, il est nommé auxiliaire dans 2 paroisses. Il a continué ce ministère jusqu'en 96, l'année à laquelle il est devenu directeur de secrétariat du cardinal Jean-Claude Turcotte, qui est à Montréal. En 98, il est appelé à Rome et il travaille pour le secrétaire d'État, puis pour la congrégation du culte divin. Il revient à Montréal en 2000. Il est nommé directeur du Grand Séminaire de Montréal, mandat qu'il occupe jusqu'en 2006. Il a enseigné la philosophie, la théologie pendant une 20aine d'années à ce Grand Séminaire de Montréal. Il a été ordonné évêque le 10 septembre 2011 par le cardinal Jean-Claude Turcotte. Vicaire épiscopal à la famille et à la jeunesse et directeur du service de pastoral liturgique. Enfin, en 2012, le pape Benoît XVI le nomme archevêque de Montréal. Depuis ce temps et bien avant, il a été le bon pasteur dans son diocèse. Pendant la pandémie, il a été le premier à célébrer la messe à l'extérieur quand nous ne pouvions plus aller à l'église, à célébrer la messe à l'extérieur à moins 20, moins 25 degrés Celsius, afin de permettre aux gens de recevoir l'Eucharistie. Quand Cécile et moi avons demandé à Monseigneur Lépine d'être notre conseiller épiscopal, il a tout de suite accepté avec grande générosité et nous lui en sommes très reconnaissants. Monseigneur Lépine, pouvez-vous nous conduire en prière en ce début de rencontre? Vous êtes muet, Monseigneur Lépine.
Sorry. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
I invite you to never be far away from the prayer of Saint Francis of Assisi. Make me an instrument of your peace. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light, and where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive. It is in pardoning that we are pardoned. And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Archbishop Lepine. It now gives me great pleasure to introduce to you our first speaker, Professor Anna Maria Tarantola, who is the chairwoman of the Foundation, Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice. She's married with 2 daughters, 3 grandchildren. In addition to chairing the Centesimus Annus Foundation, she is also chairwoman of the Associazione per Milano Annus, the Italian section, and at the Holy See of the Société des membres de la Légion d'honneur. She is member of the board of directors of Catholic University of Sacred Heart, Milan, of the board of directors of EduCat, of the listed company Be Shaping the Future, SPA. She's also a member of the advisory board for the coordination of economic policy established at the Italian Prime Minister's office, of the steering committee at the Banca Impresa Observatory, of the AIAF advisory board, the board of directors of the Center for the Social Doctrine of the Church at the Catholic University, and member of the scientific committee of the Dictionary of the Catholic Social Doctrine of the Catholic University, and of the Archbishop's Commission for the Promotion of the Common Good. She has been president of RAI Television from 2012 to 2015, vice president of the European Broadcasting Union based in Geneva, deputy director general of the Bank of Italy, and member of the Bank Supervising Committee based in Frankfurt. She is also adjunct professor of monetary economics, banking technique, and state banking supervision at Catholic University of Milan from the late 80s to 2002. She's author of numerous publications on issues such as banking and financial system, anti-money laundering, sustainable development, the role of women in the labor market, public service broadcasting, and the world of communications. Currently engaged in various volunteer activities and the dissemination of the social doctrine of the Church. She is also Grand Officer of the Order of Merit of the Italian Republic, Officer of the Order of the Legion of Honor of the French Republic, Ambrogino d'Oro of the City of Milan, and recipient of the Belisario Prize. So without further ado, Anna Maria, welcome and thank you.
Thank you for this. It's a very long presentation, and a good afternoon to everybody. I'm really very pleased to be able to participate in this launch event of the Canadian group of the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice Foundation. And also, I'm very pleased to have the chance to meet you, even if only virtually. The Canadian chapter is very important for the foundation, to the foundation, and I would say it is strategic. It has took a long time to come to this event, but we are really happy to be in the situation to be able to start. Canada represents a country full of potential, and I strongly believe in your ability to start a path of dissemination of the Christian social doctrine, thanks to your commitment, to your activity, capacity to attract new members, and thanks to the example you will give with your Christian social teaching inspired behavior. Few notes on our history. The propitious occasion for the birth of the foundation was the promulgation on May the 1st, 1991, of the encyclical Centesimus Annus of Saint John Pope II, Paul II, concerning, among other things, the just profit, the reassessment of the role and mission of the companies, recognizing the function of the just profit while respecting the dignity of the person and his fundamental rights. I must say that today, as Pope Francis always teaches us, respecting not only persons and his fundamental rights, but also the environment. Immediately after the publication of the encyclical, Cardinal Rosario José Castillo Lara, that was president of APSA, had the idea that the Italian entrepreneurs could do something to testify to the Holy Father the appreciation of companies, of businesses world of the encyclical. And thanks to the action of Archbishop Daniele Rota, that was the ecclesiastical counselor of the Italian Union of Entrepreneurs and Directors, and of Dr. Andrea Gibellini, general manager of a big bank, a northern bank, Credito Beresino and Banca Popolare di Bergamo, contacts were taken with an important group of entrepreneurs and bankers. And 68 of them accepted to participate to the establishment of a foundation. They decided to call Centesimus Annus Foundation Pro Pontifice. And they also decided to contribute with the per capita payment of 50 million liras. I must say that was really a really important amount at that time. It was decided also that the mission should be twofold. First, to spread the social doctrine of the Church, and second, to support the works of charity of the Holy Father. June the 5th, 1993, was the day of a formal constitution with the big celebration at the Vatican, followed by an audience with the Holy Father, to whom all the founding members and their family were presented one by one in an atmosphere of a profound devotion and affection. Next year, the 5th of June 2023, we will celebrate the 30th anniversary. And we will explain during the General Assembly what we are thinking to do for this celebration. Thus, the Foundation began its journey under the guidance as president of Dr. Roberto Mazzotta and the spiritual assistance of Monsignor Nicola Pavoni and Daniele Rota. As a president of APSA, His Eminence Cardinal Castillo Rota had the prerogative of guiding the activity and development of the Foundation. In the 30 years of life, the Foundation has grown. Structure and regulations are changed, but not its mission, that remains the dissemination of the Christian social doctrine and the support of the Holy Father's work of charity. We are now present in 15 countries. We recently opened a group in Australia, in East Africa, and in other countries. We are very happy of this. We are really now an international foundation, born as a typical Italian foundation. We are now an international one, with the 30 groups and about 350 members, inspired by the Christian social teaching and the magisterium of the Supreme Pontiffs in their daily work. We also have an active network of young people to whom we care a lot and from whom we receive, and we will like to receive more valuable ideas, suggestions, and proposals. In this period of 30 years, we did a lot of activities. Let me say too many to list, but I wanted to summarize some of them, just to remember the main things we have done. 17 international conferences started in 2004 till 2021, not listing the one we are going to hold the next October. 7 international consultations, 12 books published, 2 scholarships granted to young students last year, and 2 that we will assign this year during the international conference. 12 books that have won the Economy and the Society International Award. Recently, we launched the webinar with the aim to disseminate virtuous examples of entrepreneurs, academics, heads of institutions, and of the third sectors who have been able to put into practice the principle of the Christian social doctrine. Examples are very important. Similar webinars were also organized for young people on the theme of new model of leadership inspired by the integral ecology. Both these initiatives had a significant impact. In 2021, we started a common research with the Strategic Alliance of Catholic Research Universities on the theme, More Women Leadership for a Better World, Care as a Driver for Our Common Home. The choice of the women leadership theme for the first joint research that Centesimus has done with the universities, is closely linked to the action launched a few years ago at the suggestion of Pope Francis, aimed to identify a new model of a fair, solidarity-based, inclusive, and sustainable development, and therefore the need to eliminate injustice, inequality, poverty, disparities in rights and opportunities. And this includes inequalities affecting women, who are still subject to discrimination and exclusion in many situations. According to an international and multidisciplinary perspective, the research has involved 15 academics of different disciplines from 10 universities in 8 different countries: Italy, Japan, Spain, Portugal, United States, Chile, Brazil, and Australia. The research is completed, and the publication with Pope Francis' preface, we are really honored to have the preface of Pope Francis, will be officially presented at the headquarters of the Pontifical Academy of Social Sciences in Rome, Vatican, on 29th November next. Another important initiative is the launch of the Dialogues for a Fully Sustainable Finance as a response to the invitation addressed to us by Pope Francis at the private audience last year, 23rd of October, to explore the possibility of starting a dialogue between finance, humanism, and faith. Dialogues have already been started with the participation of more than 20 representatives of the main Italian banks and financial companies. This is a path that we are starting. If it is successful, we plan to extend the initiative to other countries. So you could be one of the countries in which in the future we can start these dialogues. Many and very important changes regarding the rules and the Foundation has to observe. Things have truly changed since 30 years ago, with a strong impact on the organization and operativity of the Foundation. We are now supervised by the Secretary of the Economy, the Secretary of State, and APSA. Regulation on money laundering, balance sheet, and budget and financial investment has been enacted. And we have issued the Code of Ethics, which is an integral part of the organizational management and control model. And please let me ask you to read and sign the Code of Ethics, and Alberto is available for any clarification. As I said, no change in our mission. That is more and more important in the difficult days we are living, characterized by persistent pandemic, increasing inequalities and poverty, environment, economic and social crisis, increasing inflation, a terrible war of aggression in Europe. In this context, the compass of the Christian social doctrine is more essential than ever to activate discernment in the analysis and the solution of so many problems we have to face. According to our mission, one of the Foundation's goals is to give a consistent contribution in this epochal change. In this perspective, the concrete and convinced contribution of the groups are fundamental. And I firmly believe that your group can do a lot to spread the Christian social teaching in your beautiful country. And this work has two purposes. First, to spread the knowledge. The Christian social doctrine is not sufficiently known. Above all, there is not a clear perception that the Christian social doctrine of today is the magisterium of Pope Francis. Therefore, we have to spread the contents of Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti encyclicals. In the private audience granted to me last July 4th, Pope Francis recommended not to be backed down. He used an Italian word that is very difficult to translate. So I said back means not to look back, to look forward. Second task, not an easy one, but a necessary one. Help the various actors of the economy and society to concretely apply the principle of the Christian social doctrine of today. In my speech to the General Assembly, I will present the future program of the Foundation. And so I ask you, please allow me not to anticipate the content now. I only wanted to remember that the 2022 Foundation's theme are poverty in its old and new declinations and peace. There is a very important link, interconnection between poverty and peace. And that the guiding theme for the 2023 is the Fratelli Tutti encyclical. The dialogue between groups and between them and the Foundation and the Vatican Foundation is essential. We must feed a constant exchange of information, which is the tool to get to know each other, learn, and draw inspiration for the various actions. In this context, I remember that in November each year, all the chapters have to submit to the board of the Vatican Foundation a report on the activity carried out, indicating the number of the members, number of the meeting held, number of participants to each meeting, topics covered, etc. And also to present an activity program for the following year. The ecclesiastical counselor also must send a report on the consistency of what has been done by the group with the Christian social teaching and the magisterium of the Church. Let me conclude that today many founding members are no longer with us, but their spirit is always alive. Their vision, passion, selfless commitment can be a guide to our action. Looking at the future, I see a path that is not easy, but exciting, toward the new world indicated by Pope Francis, thanks to the implementation of brotherhood and sisterhood and the social friendship and the new concept of peace. Welcome to this big family of Centesimus. May the Lord Jesus guide and support you and all of us in your and our way. I really hope that you can start and can act in the future as the long leg of the Centesimus Annus, and I hope to see you in Rome in October. Welcome again.
Merci beaucoup, Anna Maria. Merci beaucoup. Oui. Votre dédication, votre
Thank you.
expérience,
Thank you.
c'est une inspiration pour chacun et chacune de nous. Ce que vous avez fait, votre carrière florissante et maintenant vous donnez de votre temps à cette organisation, c'est extraordinaire. Je sais que vous êtes blessé récemment et puis que d'être avec nous, vous l'êtes, sans que ça paraisse, vous l'êtes déjà avec beaucoup de souffrance physique. Alors, si plus tard vous voulez nous quitter, vraiment nous sympathisons avec vous et nous comprendrons. Alors, je vous remercie beaucoup de votre présence aujourd'hui. Et Alberto, est-ce que vous désirez ajouter quelques mots?
It's not easy after so complete and deep speech of the chairwoman to say something. I think that she underlined that action and what we can do day by day in our lives as in our experience has to give us the opportunity to be each other in a family who would like to develop more about the social doctrine. The social doctrine, let me say, is not only a church or a Catholic church teaching, but has a lot of values that can be spread and are shared with people who is not in the church and people who is not thinking about the faith. I think it's very important to talk with them, because talking within us is too easy, I think. The difficulty is to talk to people who is not thinking as you. We have to listen to them and we have to act practically. Many times bureaucracy in our lives is not allowing to express our action. Rules are very important, but we have also to look that the rules many times means power of the people and not really the way of life. Pope Francis is now asking us to look on new models of economy, new models and styles of life. And let me say, these topics are, I think, agreed by all the people, I think. And for this reason, the first guy who is talking about, for example, ecology, and was Pope Francis again, and he puts us in front of realities that have to be changed. Otherwise, we have no chance in the future. The Ukraine war is showing that. The fact that for some reason which are not understandable put us to face some situations that some years ago were not under our eyes. So again, we all are now asked to do something and to be in the church and or outside the church, but sharing the values and to do something, because remember that our bylaws are also asking us to support the development of our actions, which is the second issue we have in our bylaws. I'm very glad to be here to share with you virtually this occasion. Again, I appreciate very much what Monsignor Le Pen has said at the very start of our conference today. He read something of San Francesco, and that's very important, to simplify our life and to think about the very important issues of our life. Thank you, Cecile, for having organized this meeting. You are a young guy, and so you push every time. But I have in the other side Daniel, who I'm sure you made some more considerations on what you are doing. But I appreciate this way to do this new group and to drive this new group. Thank you again to everybody, and also to the support of Robert Nalevajek, because I know that Cecile was supported by him also.
Thank you. Thank you
all.
very much, Alberto. And we missed an opportunity to give a bit of your bio. I'll just do that briefly.
Please,
so
don't do that. I leave them to read it.
Yes, you can read.
Please.
But the most important thing is to know that you are the General Secretary of the Foundation since October of last year.
That's good.
And we'll leave the rest for people to read. And at this point, I'll just let everyone know that if you've got, we are going to have a Q&A later in the webinar. And you can start putting questions in as they come up, and we'll field those questions. So, and you'll also get to see all of the panelists and all of the team on the full screen at some point a little later, and we'll introduce them. But for now, I'm just going to drop a quick, another quick poll while Danielle introduces our next speaker. Well, not introduces, but I think presents. We've already been introduced to.
OK. Merci encore, Anna Maria, et merci, Alberto. Nous allons maintenant entendre Monseigneur Christian Lépine qui va nous parler de cette doctrine sociale catholique. Qu'est-ce que c'est dans notre vie et pourquoi c'est important de la connaître? Monseigneur Lépine, c'est à votre tour. Et vous êtes muet. Ce sont les défis de la technologie. Il faut toujours penser que nous sommes peut-être muets. Allez-y, c'est votre tour.
Ben, l'Église, on est supposé être spécialisé en communication, mais des fois, ça ne fonctionne pas. Alors, bonjour à tous. C'est une grande joie pour moi d'avoir l'occasion de communiquer avec vous, parler de la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Ça va peut-être être un peu souffrant parce qu'il va probablement y avoir plus de questions que de réponses. Alors, donc, on m'a donné une vingtaine de minutes. Si jamais je dépasse, j'ai parti mon chronomètre. Alors, mon chronomètre va m'avertir. Peut-être en amont, quelques considérations. La première, c'est que la doctrine sociale de l'Église pourrait apparaître comme étant très abstraite et très distante de la vie concrète. Mais c'est un peu comme le soleil. Le soleil est assez loin, il a quand même le pouvoir de nous éclairer. Le soleil, il ne marche pas à notre place, mais il nous donne la lumière pour marcher. Et espérons-le dans la bonne direction. Alors, la doctrine sociale de l'Église peut apparaître abstraite dans ses principes, dans ses éléments, mais elle a le pouvoir de nous éclairer et de marcher dans la bonne direction. Un autre aspect aussi, un autre préalable, c'est que Daniel l'a déjà évoqué, c'est que quelque part, vous en faites déjà de la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Dès qu'on parle certainement de la parole de Dieu en épuisant, lorsqu'on parle d'amour, de communauté, de justice, quelque part, on est dans la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Alors pourquoi? Donc, ça fait 2000 ans et toute la Bible est là pour nous inviter à marcher sur un chemin de la doctrine sociale de l'Église et vraiment est la source. La Bible demeure la source fondamentale et première de la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Par contre, en 1891, dans les défis de la modernité et des transformations économiques de l'époque, a commencé ce qu'on a appelé la doctrine sociale de l'Église. C'est un peu comme un corps organique, des principes qui s'articulent les uns aux autres. Et ça se développe depuis. Il y a eu des textes de différents papes jusqu'à aujourd'hui. Le pape Jean-Paul II a porté à bout de bras, littéralement, la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Le pape Benoît XVI a continué. Et le pape François continue en l'enrichissant puis en l'amenant à toutes les facettes de la vie. Non seulement les facettes économiques ou de production, mais toutes les facettes de la vie. Alors donc, quel est le fil conducteur qui traverse tous les documents depuis 1891? Encore une fois, ce n'est pas un fil conducteur inventé en 1891, il est au début de la Bible, dans les premiers versets de la Genèse. C'est la question de la dignité de l'être humain. On parle beaucoup de dignité d'être humain, mais ce n'est pas nécessairement évident d'en tenir compte de façon concrète et pratique dans notre vie familiale, dans le monde du travail, dans la société, dans notre façon de travailler en Église, dans notre façon d'être ensemble. On a besoin de toujours revenir à la dignité de l'être humain parce que ça vient comme conditionner notre regard. Ça vient nourrir, je dirais, notre regard sur l'être humain. Et ce qui commande la doctrine sociale de l'Église, c'est qu'est-ce que l'être humain? Qui est-il? Quelle est sa vocation? Et donc, c'est la valeur même de la personne qui est en jeu, qui est au centre. C'est un peu comme le cœur qu'on ne voit pas, mais qui fait battre, qui fait vivre. La dignité de l'être humain, c'est comme le cœur que l'on ne voit pas, mais qui fait battre la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Alors, l'être humain créé à l'image de Dieu, la dignité de tout être humain, quelle que soit sa condition de santé, de vie historique, culturelle, matérielle, c'est la dignité de tout être humain. Alors, c'est un enjeu fondamental. Puis après, comment continuer à tenir compte, d'avoir ce regard qui nous nourrisse comme une lumière, donc qui nous guide et qui nous permet de voir dans quelle direction nous pouvons marcher. Alors, dans la doctrine sociale de l'Église, il y a 3 sphères qui s'entrecoupent sans cesse, avec plus d'insistance sur une, plus d'insistance sur l'autre, mais c'est comme 3 sphères qui s'entrecoupent sans cesse. Il y a la sphère de la famille, la sphère du travail et la sphère de la société. Donc, sans cesse, on passe de l'un à l'autre ou on tient les 3 ensemble. Je commence par la sphère de la famille. La famille, c'est vraiment ce qui est fondamental dans notre vie personnelle et sociale et même ecclésiale. La famille, c'est fondamental. L'expression de la famille est la cellule de la société est très importante et mise en valeur dans la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Alors, qu'est-ce que ça va vouloir dire? Je donne quelques exemples. Ça va vouloir dire, par exemple, que les premiers responsables de l'éducation de leurs enfants, ce sont les parents. Donc, ils ont le droit d'être considérés comme étant les premiers responsables de l'éducation de leurs enfants par la société et par l'État. Donc, toujours faire aux parents. On fait des plans d'éducation. Quelle est la place qu'on donne aux parents dans nos projets d'éducation? On intervient dans l'éducation de l'enfance, de la jeunesse. Quelle est la place qu'on donne aux parents dans nos interventions dans l'éducation de l'enfance et de la jeunesse? Ça, c'est un enjeu fondamental de la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Ça se retrouve ailleurs, ça se retrouve même dans la Déclaration universelle des droits de l'homme de 1948. Mais ce n'est pas toujours mis en pratique. Des fois, on s'éloigne de ça. Mais ça, c'est un des enjeux importants. Parallèlement à ça et de façon complémentaire, un des aspects ici, c'est que les enfants, justement, ne sont pas les enfants de l'État. Ce sont les enfants de leurs parents. Ça a l'air à rien, mais des fois, les politiques, on n'est plus trop certain vers quoi on s'en va. Donc, c'est pour aider. Encore une fois, c'est une lumière. Ce n'est pas la lumière qui va marcher à notre place, mais c'est la lumière qui nous invite à nous poser des questions sur ce qu'on est en train de construire comme société et dans quelle direction sommes-nous en train de marcher. Est-ce que c'est dans cette direction-là qu'on veut appeler ou marcher ou comment est-ce qu'on peut arrimer et enrichir une vision de la dignité de la personne qui tienne compte que la famille et la cellule de la société. Un autre aspect, c'est le travail. On sait que lorsqu'il s'agit du travail, on peut parler, et on l'a beaucoup fait, on peut parler de la terre, travailler la terre, on peut parler du capital, et avec des ouvriers qui font opérer le capital ou qui font fructifier le capital. Mais, et certainement qu'on en a parlé, et d'ailleurs, c'est un peu ce débat-là qui a lancé la doctrine sociale de l'Église en 1891 entre une forme de capitalisme, disons, individualiste, où l'être humain devient facilement un outil dans la production, ou un marxisme qui finalement devient un capitalisme d'État qui aussi arrive à considérer l'être humain comme un outil dans la production. Alors, le cheminement qui a été fait à travers la doctrine sociale de l'Église, cheminement qui est dû à sans cesse retourner à la Bible, mais aussi au progrès de la réflexion sur le plan philosophique, sur le plan sociologique, sur le plan économique, sur le plan politique, parce qu'on vit dans un monde qui réfléchit et qui en même temps est en interaction avec différentes croyances, différents courants de pensée et différentes expériences. Alors, là où la doctrine sociale de l'Église en est arrivée avec toute la question du travail, c'est que la première ressource pour le travail, ce n'est pas la terre, ce n'est pas le capital, ce n'est pas l'argent, c'est la personne elle-même. De voir que dans le travail, la première ressource, c'est vraiment la personne elle-même. Donc, la façon dont on traite la dignité de la personne dans le monde du travail devient non pas une dépense, mais un investissement. On veut investir dans l'avenir, investissons dans la dignité de la personne, dans la dignité du travailleur. La dignité du travail ou la dignité du travailleur n'est pas reliée au fait de quel est son travail. Ce n'est pas je suis balayeur, j'ai moins de dignité que celui qui est ingénieur. Non, la dignité du travail est basée sur le fait que c'est un être humain qui travaille. Quel que soit son travail, c'est un être humain qui travaille. Et dans ce sens-là, la doctrine sociale de l'Église revient avec de plus en plus d'insistance, certainement avec Jean-Paul II, avec Benoît XVI, avec le pape François, qui amplifie cette vision de la personne humaine comme étant la première ressource dans le travail. En même temps, l'être humain, dans sa dignité, est le premier acteur dans le travail. Et comment donc non seulement y voir toute la ressource, et ça, une des façons, par exemple, pour l'illustrer, c'est tout ce qu'on peut faire pour la formation, pour l'éducation. Lorsqu'on est, où en sommes-nous dans la formation? Où en sommes-nous dans l'éducation? Il y a l'éducation, la formation dans la famille, il y a dans la société, il y a au niveau de l'État, au niveau des entreprises, au niveau des institutions privées, mais la formation et l'éducation deviennent des enjeux fondamentaux pour mettre en valeur la dignité de la personne, parce que c'est la première ressource dans le monde du travail pour produire, la première ressource pour construire la société. La première ressource, c'est vraiment la dignité du travailleur et comment on honore cette dignité et comment on en tient compte. Alors donc, encore une fois, la doctrine sociale de l'Église ne marchera pas à notre place, mais elle nous éclaire pour marcher dans cette direction de la dignité. C'est une expérience à toujours grandir. On n'est jamais parfait, il faut toujours s'améliorer, mais c'est une piste très importante à suivre. Un autre aspect donc on a parlé de la famille, on parle du travail. Un autre aspect, c'est certainement la société. Dans la société, on sait qu'on est dans une époque plutôt de polarisation entre différents courants. Et la doctrine sociale de l'Église ne donne pas nécessairement la réponse à toutes les questions, mais elle met des balises. Alors, je parle de deux balises en même temps que de deux situations extrêmes auxquelles on est confronté. On parle souvent d'individualisme, et l'individualisme a ceci comme de la valeur de l'individu. Et si on veut parler de la valeur de l'individu, on ne se trompe pas. L'individualisme, c'est quand on dit « tout va bien pour moi, donc tout va bien ». Non, ça peut aller bien pour moi, puis ça peut aller mal pour un autre. Alors, l'individualisme, c'est quand on se centre sur son propre bien et qu'on arrête là. Le collectivisme, c'est quand l'être humain devient une forme d'un outil ou une pièce mécanique dans un rouage, dans un ensemble, et n'est plus reconnu à sa propre valeur. Alors, est-ce qu'il y a quelque chose qui est en relief dans le collectivisme? Oui, c'est la dimension communautaire. On n'existe pas tout seul. C'est vrai qu'on est en relation les uns avec les autres. Mais comment, donner de la valeur à l'individu sans tomber dans l'individualisme et donner de la valeur à la collectivité sans tomber dans le collectivisme? Alors, je dois dire que la doctrine sociale de l'Église a une longue réflexion qui a commencé en 1891. C'était l'enjeu dès 1891 et jusqu'à aujourd'hui. Sans relâche, c'est un thème sur lequel la doctrine sociale est revenue. Les papes qui ont, avec l'Église qui a produit à travers le magistère des papes, qui a comme produit ou énoncé cette doctrine sociale, est constamment revenu pour valoriser l'individu sans individualisme, valoriser la collectivité sans collectivisme. Et c'est un défi qu'on a encore à relever parce que ce n'est pas évident, ce n'est pas facile. Alors, par exemple, il y a toute la question de la liberté. Alors oui, la liberté, c'est très important, mais la responsabilité aussi. Alors, comme avait dit un professeur que j'ai eu au grand séminaire, là, il avait dit à New York, on a la statue de la liberté, il faudrait à San Francisco avoir la statue de la responsabilité. Alors, donc, on est oui, mais on est responsable. Donc, c'est des balises où on protège la dignité de chaque être humain, chaque individu, et on protège sa liberté. Mais en même temps, on protège la dimension de responsabilité. Parce qu'à la limite, quand on vit jamais seul. On vit avec les autres et on vit pour d'autres. Quand on travaille jamais seul. On travaille avec les autres et on travaille pour d'autres, pour les autres. Donc, c'est toujours, est-ce que c'est facile de tenir les deux ensemble? Il y a les peurs, il y a l'histoire, il y a les échecs, il y a les projets qui fonctionnent, d'autres qui fonctionnent moins. Mais certainement que c'est un enjeu majeur pour construire une société où il y a la paix. Si on veut la paix, ça prend la dignité de tout être humain, le respect de sa liberté de penser, liberté de religion, liberté de prier, liberté de s'associer. Et ça demande aussi, bien sûr, ce sens communautaire. Une façon d'articuler le sens communautaire qui est mis en valeur dans la doctrine sociale de l'Église, c'est un thème qui est peut-être un peu mystérieux. On appelle ça la subsidiarité. La subsidiarité, il y a différentes façons de la définir, mais en bout de ligne, ça veut dire il n'y a pas l'État d'un côté et l'individu de l'autre. Entre l'individu et l'État, il y a la famille, il y a les associations d'entrepreneurs, associations culturelles, associations d'ouvriers, toutes sortes d'associations qui peuvent être associations éducatives. Alors, entre l'individu et l'État, il y a de la place pour la subsidiarité, c'est-à-dire pour toutes sortes de réseaux, toutes sortes d'associations. Et c'est important que cette liberté de s'associer soit respectée, et non seulement respectée, mais même promue, parce que ça fortifie la société dans son ensemble quand il y a plein de réseaux d'associations où les gens vivent avec les autres, avec d'autres et pour d'autres, en poursuivant ce qu'on appelle le bien commun, pour le bien de tous, parce que finalement, ça rejaillit sur tous. La possibilité de vivre en paix ensemble dans la société, c'est à la fois le respect de la liberté, mais aussi au niveau individuel, mais aussi au niveau de sous-groupes, pour ainsi dire, au niveau de pouvoir s'associer. Alors, parfois, on est pris en des individualismes, on ne sait plus trop quoi faire du fait qu'on vit ensemble. Des fois, on est pris dans un vide ensemble, on ne sait plus trop quoi faire de l'individu. Alors, il n'y a pas de réponse toute faite d'avance, mais c'est comme deux lumières. À la fois, donc, la valeur de la personne, mais aussi l'importance de la communauté, de la collectivité. Et donc, ça met en valeur, c'est comme solidarité et subsidiarité. Donc, la doctrine sociale de l'Église articule souvent ces deux points-là. Là. Pour répondre à l'individualisme et au collectivisme, c'est articuler ensemble solidarité et subsidiarité. Et pour pouvoir avoir une dynamique, on pourrait dire, démocratique et en même temps qui est source de paix. Donc, la doctrine sociale de l'Église, encore une fois, ça paraît abstrait qu'on a des principes comme ça, mais ce sont des principes qui éclairent vraiment nos situations concrètes. Et parce qu'à chaque fois qu'on est confronté à des défis, il n'est pas rare qu'on pense qu'on va surmonter les défis je dirais, par des moyens qui peuvent s'avérer injustes. Il n'est pas rare qu'on va surmonter des défis en pensant c'est mieux de limiter la démocratie, comme ça va être plus facile de résoudre des problèmes. C'est pas rare qu'on veut surmonter les défis en s'imposant aux gens, en pensant s'imposer ou imposer aux gens. Dans l'évolution récente et à la fois de la société, de la planète en ce temps de COVID qui n'en finit pas de passer, mais en même temps des préoccupations écologiques, le pape François appelle vraiment un apport très précieux. C'est comme une nouvelle étape dans la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Cette idée que toute l'humanité est ensemble dans la maison commune. Donc, c'est une tâche humaine de toute l'humanité. C'est une tâche non seulement des chrétiens dans le monde, mais ça devient une tâche humaine de toute l'humanité d'avoir le sens de la maison commune et donc de prendre soin de l'ensemble. Il y a le côté prendre soin des personnes, mais les personnes vivent dans une maison. Alors, et on vit tous dans la même maison. Donc, il y a le côté prendre soin de la maison commune, qui est la Terre, qui est la planète, qui est toutes les ressources qu'on peut avoir, et savoir cette dynamique. Donc, ce n'est pas tellement d'aller, comment je dirais, de séparer les choses. Ce n'est pas ou l'un ou l'autre, c'est tout ensemble pour prendre soin de la maison commune, mais encore une fois ensemble, dans le respect de la dignité de chaque être humain, dans le respect de dynamique de sous-groupe et de liberté d'association. Et je dirais dans le dialogue. Le dialogue, le pape Paul VI en a parlé beaucoup, Jean-Paul II en a parlé beaucoup. Centesimus Annus est arrivé au moment où le mur, dans 1989, le mur de Berlin s'est écroulé. Et ce que le pape Jean-Paul II faisait ressortir dans Centesimus Annus, c'est que c'est le dialogue, c'est la prière, la souffrance offerte, le dialogue, une vision de solidarité qui fait que le mur s'est écroulé. Ça n'a pas été la guerre qui a fait s'écrouler le mur. C'est la promotion de la dignité de la personne et cet effort de solidarité et de prière qui a fait s'écrouler le mur. Aujourd'hui, il y a bien des murs, mais si nous faisons des efforts de prière, de réflexion, de solidarité, en mettant au cœur la dignité de tout être humain, fratelli tutti, comme dit le pape François, nous pouvons construire ensemble une maison où on peut tous avoir la dignité de tout être humain, peut être reconnu. Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Monseigneur Lépine. Donc, nous venons d'avoir 20 minutes de connaissances et de beaucoup d'idées à penser, à méditer. Et comment peut-on mettre tout ça en pratique? Donc, nous avons la chance sur notre comité de direction de notre chapitre d'avoir des personnes qui sont bien informées et puis qui peuvent nous parler d'exemples comment cette doctrine sociale peut être utilisée ou devient un moyen de vivre à chaque jour. Nous aurons Corey, Andrew Labrec et nous aurons aussi Nicole Scheidel qui vont nous parler pendant quelques instants de l'applicabilité de tout ce que nous avons entendu. Je vous présente Corey, Andrew Labrec. C'est un professeur agrégé en bioéthique théologie et d'éthique théologique et premier titulaire de la chaire de leadership pédagogique en éthique de la vie à la faculté de théologie et de sciences religieuses de l'Université Laval à Québec. Il est vice-doyen et directeur des programmes d'études supérieures en théologie. Je pense que c'est une personne assez occupée.
Mhm.
Il a obtenu un baccalauréat en anatomie et biologie cellulaire, une maîtrise en études religieuses avec spécialisation en bioéthique et un doctorat en éthique religieuse de l'Université McGill à Montréal. Son enseignement et ses recherches examinent comment les religions abrahamaïques, en mettant l'accent sur la tradition catholique romaine, abordent des questions éthiques en médecine, bioéthique et environnement. Il s'intéresse au contexte du vieillissement, à l'éthique de la fin de vie et la compréhension de la personnalité. Il est vice-président du Comité national d'éthique sur le vieillissement au Québec et membre correspondant de l'Académie pontificale pour la vie. Bien impressionnant, Corey. Et nous avons aussi Nicole Scheidel, qui est PDG et cofondatrice de FitMinds, une entreprise canadienne qui propose des programmes de thérapie de stimulation cognitive pour des personnes âgées au Canada, aux États-Unis et en Australie. Nicole a pratiqué le droit chez Cunningham Swan à Kingston, en Ontario. Elle a été aussi directrice de l'école primaire de Autumn School for Girls à Toronto et a occupé des postes de développement commercial dans plusieurs entreprises de haute technologie et de défense à Tampa, en Floride, et à Ottawa, en Ontario. Nicole est diplômée de Osgood Hall Law School et détient une maîtrise en droit de l'Université Queen's. Mariée à Andrew Scheidel, elle est la maman de 7 enfants. Donc, nous allons écouter avec beaucoup d'intérêt Corey et Nicole qui nous parlent de cette théorie, de ces concepts que nous pouvons mettre en pratique. Corey.
Thank you, Danielle. It is so good to be with you all today for this launch. As an academic and a professor of theological bioethics, so I explore ethical issues in medicine, biotechnology, and the environment from the Catholic perspective. My work constantly engages the major themes of Catholic social teaching, especially the dignity of the human person, the preferential option for the poor and vulnerable, solidarity, and the care for creation. In my few minutes here, I want to share 2 stories related to dignity, which is very much at the center of the Church's social teaching, to draw out its relevance, not just in my professional life, but as a person of faith living in a world that is often selective with the way it thinks about and bestows dignity. So a few years into my appointment as a professor, then at Emory University in Atlanta, I received a call from the Washington Post. They wanted to discuss the case of Brittany Maynard, a 29-year-old American woman who had been diagnosed with terminal brain cancer and who, after being told that she would inevitably be facing unbearable suffering as her condition worsened, chose to end her life by assisted death in Oregon, which she did on November 1st, 2014. The journalist on the phone began, "Are you the Catholic bioethics guy?" And I said, I am that guy, yes. And then the journalist asked, "Have you heard about the Maynard case?" And I said, yes. And he continued with the haste of an impending deadline. "I have just one question for you," he said. "Could you tell me why the Church is against dying with dignity?" And my answer came to him as a shock. I said, "The Church is not against dying with dignity. In fact, I would argue that the Church is one of the world's greatest champions of dying with dignity." There was a pause. And the journalist said with some hesitation, "I thought the Church was against euthanasia." And I said, "It is, but that wasn't your question." There was another pause. And I thought it cruel to let him linger in confusion, so I jumped right in. "Listen," I said, "the Church has a different vision than a good part of our society when it comes to what we mean by dignity. My tradition teaches that dignity is inherent, sealed on all humans by virtue of their being created in God's image, ipso facto, no matter their social status, the condition of their health, their ethic or lack thereof. Instead, what seems to be more commonplace in our world is operating on the premise that dignity is lost when certain functions are lost. That is, if your ability to speak, to think, to remember, and to go about your day-to-day activity autonomously are on the decline because of, say, illness or what have you, you are in danger of losing your dignity. On the contrary, the church's social teaching reminds that in our deepest vulnerability, that is, when we are the most woundable, our dignity not only remains ever intact, it demands protection. The universality of our woundability, as it were, calls for a compassion that is far-reaching and never selective or conditional. Now, truth be told, not much of that made it into the Washington Post article that afternoon, but I digress. I admit that I too have sometimes been swayed by the mainstream view of dignity as being attached to function. It was Holy Week 2018. I was called home to Montreal. My mom, who had terminal colon cancer that had spread quickly to the liver, had moved quite suddenly into active dying, almost as if overnight. And I had just spoken to her on the phone. All seemed well. After a number of days, she slipped into a coma. We had home care at the time. And the CLSC, which is a community health center in Quebec, had sent a palliative care physician and nurse to help us. On the morning of Easter Tuesday, as we were clearly at the end of things, there was a knock on the door. It was the home health aide. Her name was Chantal. She said that she had come to wash my mom. But in the midst of many tears, I told her that I did not want to waste her precious time because it looked like my mom was going to pass at any moment. Chantal, I remember this very well, took my hand and said, "Listen, I've heard that you're a highly educated guy. In all honesty," she said, "I barely finished high school. But one thing that I know, and that is important to me, is that even the smallest things that I do, like washing, help me show my respect for the dignity of people I care for, even to their last breaths. So would you let me wash your mom?" she asked. "Even if she is dying at this very moment, it's important." And she did. I teach this stuff, if you will, for a living. It's my vocation. But I so very much needed to be reminded at that very hour what is at the core of our tradition. I don't know if Chantal was a person of faith, but her words and actions bore witness to the wisdom of the church and of the first principle of its social teaching, a principle that I taught about for decades, but was blinded to in the depths of my own agony. It is no light thing when we talk about the transformative power of the church's social teaching. It is life-affirming in the shadow. It is uplifting when we are in the trenches of despair and of hopelessness. And above all, it is orienting when we are grasping for meaning in the dark. So I am very happy to be a part of this important effort to constructively integrate Catholic social teaching, particularly in lay Catholic life. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And now we will hear from Nicole. Excusez, je suis en français. Maintenant, c'est Nicole.
So I've just launched another poll while I set up a video. Nicole is with us, but does not have the best connection. So she prepared something that she wanted to share with us a little in advance. So just bear with me as I share my screen and get this started.
passion. Hi, I'm so excited to join you today for the launch of CAPP-Canada. My name is Nicole Scheidel. I'm a cradle Catholic. I grew up in Saskatchewan and married a military man, so I have lived and traveled throughout Canada as well as overseas. I've been married for 35 years and I have 7 children, 3 of them now married. I have a passion for working with the elderly. When I was practicing law, I volunteered at a palliative care hospice, spending hours visiting and doing small acts of service, including praying the rosary beside the bed of a dying woman. Those volunteer hours, though hard, were very meaningful to me. This passion stayed with me wherever I moved and whatever my work happened to be. As I became more aware of Catholic social teaching, that deeper understanding helped me make that passion a concrete reality. When I moved back into Canada in 2008, I could see the euthanasia train coming down the track. And I also saw a poverty of thinking about the role of seniors in our society. I also was drawn, once again, to working with seniors, particularly those who were vulnerable because of cognitive impairments like dementia. Dementia changes relationships, but it doesn't end them. The family bond is still there, and it is important to support the family relationship and the suffering individual so that they can be all they can be for as long as possible. The importance of family is deeply embedded in the social doctrine of the Catholic Church, and that desire to support families in their suffering was a key component in the response I was called to give to this social problem. As a community, we must provide support, otherwise euthanasia seems like the reasonable way to relieve suffering. But if we choose to euthanize the vulnerable among us, what is our school of tenderness? If we have no one to be tender and generous with, we lose that capacity individually and as a nation. We become more callous. So my answer to this problem was to start a company called Fit Minds, which creates cognitive stimulation therapy programming for seniors, for those who are cognitively well, and for those who suffer from dementia. One of the choices we had at the beginning of the company was whether to deliver the program through a human being or through a computer. We chose human interactions, in our case, a Fit Minds coach. We provide a script and exercises for the coach, but they create the relationships that make the programming effective. We focus on building that relationship as the most important part of the process. It really is the principle of subsidiarity in action. Since 2010, we have been providing Fit Minds programming to retirement homes and long-term care homes across Canada, as well as in the USA and Australia. And during the pandemic, we decided to increase the amount of programming available without increasing the cost to our partners so they could deliver meaningful materials under the doors of their locked-in residents. It was a very tough time, and we tried to do what we could to make a difference in the lives of seniors. Now, euthanasia as an answer to suffering is picking up speed in our country. In 2018, I took on the additional role as Executive Director for Canadian Physicians for Life. We are at the forefront of this battle to protect the vulnerable. And while it is hard work, I am sustained by my faith and the desire to bring the message of the gospel in a concrete and tangible way to my family, community, and country. It is my hope that the social doctrine will inspire you too. Thank you.
Oops. Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Merci, Corey et Nicole. On aurait pu vous entendre parler pendant beaucoup plus longtemps. C'est beaucoup d'inspiration que nous avons retenu de cette présentation. Et merci de toujours répondre à nos sondages que nous faisons à différents moments pendant les présentations. Merci beaucoup.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to now introduce.
Cecile, I would like to say
Yes.
one thing.
Oh, yes,
I
please.
think among the encyclica, we have also to consider, if you permit, also Populorum Progressio of Paul VI. I'm very close to what, because I have 70 years old, so I'm very close on what this encyclica has represented for my generation and for the young people who were there. Because in that encyclica, with a very clear way, if I remember, the Pope has done a very clever synthesis of what the society was at that time. And I think to some extent, unfortunately, something is now very, how to say, actual also today. And this Pope Francis, I think, in many times have referred to that encyclica and to Paul VI. And I think I have to say that we have also to refer to this encyclica, if I may.
Thank you, Alberto. And also, I understand you have, it's quite late in Italy and you have to join your family for dinner, among other things. So you won't be with us for the question period, but we thank you for being with us today. And for those of us who...
Monsignor Le Pen has talked about families and the importance of the family and the education within the family. So I have to respect also some rules the family is given to me. So if Monsignor has given me also the, thank you. So,
Merci.
thank to all and to the effort you made for having this very important webinar, because I would like to tell to all our chapters to do that, because this is a very impressive and useful thing for everybody, and for me for the first. Thank you all. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye. So up next, well, Alberto mentioned all the chapters, and one of the first, and I believe it was the first to be established outside of Europe, was the CAPP USA chapter. And I'm very pleased today to be able to have as guests, as I guess our fourth guest, Robert Nalawajic, who is the current executive vice president, but also past president of the Centesimus Annus Pro Pontifice USA, and a member of the foundation board at the Vatican. He's also a Knight of the Order of Malta, and where he served at the American Association as served on the Education and Defense of the Faith Committee. He's also a member of Legatus. He served on the board of Catholic Charities, Diocese of Bridgeport, chairing planning and policy, and on the steering committee of the annual Bishop's Appeal. In May 2015, Pope Francis named him a Knight Commander of the Papal Order of St. Gregory the Great. Now, his bio, that's just one portion of his biography. There's a lot of other volunteer work and a lot of professional work experience that he brings. 22 years at Pfizer, worked with Global Leadership Institute, YMCA, civic work, Boy Scouts of America, the Greenwich Council, and other things as well. But I would prefer to encourage you to go to the CAPP USA website, discover that website, and find his bio to read more. And now I will just hand it over to Bob Nalawajic. Thank you so much for joining us today, Bob.
Cecil, thank you very much. And that was more than enough. And may I also suggest that if you find the time to go to the CAPP-USA.org website, don't bother looking me up. Dive into Catholic social teaching if you have that opportunity. I'd like to just, and again, I'm anchoring this and want to get onto your Q&As as quick as possible. But I want to congratulate Cecil and Danielle for your leadership in CAPP Canada. It's been a long time coming, as you know. And I'm thrilled that we will have, adding to CAPP's language group, not only the English of Canada with the UK, US, and the chapter developing in Australia, but a very active and growing chapter in France as well. So I think the ability to make connections is wonderful, and you're gonna, that's one of the things I think you're gonna enjoy. Also, I want to recognize my boss at the Vatican, Anna Maria Tarantola, for her excellent presentation, and Alberto, who does know probably as much as anyone about the operations as the foundation in the Rome, and you can find out a lot from him. I'm going to just very quickly, maybe not exactly do what we talked about, Cecil, because I saw that the first Q&A that you had out, people were most interested in finding out more about CAPP and CAPP-Canada. And then secondly, they wanted to know a lot more about the mission. So if I can just briefly go along those two lines and say that first of all, each chapter is going to take on its own charism. And ours have changed dramatically over the 20 years we've been operating in the US, 21 now. But we did focus very early on being very corporate, come from a corporate background, and defining our purpose, our mission, and our challenge. And this is more about CAPP and what CAPP is about. So we defined our challenge is to have Catholic social teaching implemented in society through lay Catholic business, academic, and professional leaders. As we like to say, to order and throw light upon all the affairs of the world in line with the teachings of Jesus Christ, as contained especially in the Church's social doctrine. And we also follow on St. John Paul's comments in Centesimus Annus, where he said that the social message of the gospel must not be considered a theory, quote, but above all, a basis and a motivation for action. So taking from that, we developed our mission. And our mission is to evangelize lay Catholic leaders, to help form their consciences on the principles of Catholic social doctrine, and to support their initiatives to implement it in various sectors of society. And here we take a lead from, actually, I believe Archbishop Le Pen, your predecessor, was involved in the preparation of this. Jean Paul II's Ecclesia in America, where he said that the pastoral care of the leading sectors of society has been neglected. And he said that people at that level have become estranged from the church. And he went on to insist especially on the formation of consciences on the basis of Catholic social doctrine. There's a quote: conversely, if this evangelization of the leadership sector is neglected, it should come as no surprise that many who are part of it will be guided by criteria alien to the gospel and at times openly contrary to it. I think we can see ourselves in the situation predicted in 1999. And we move from that to our challenge. And our challenge here, as we defined it in the US, was to develop a strong and committed group of Catholic lay leaders, rich in faith and theologically prepared to be present in public life, to develop and implement Catholic social teaching, to become a credible voice in the public square. And in our June 2019 audience with Pope Francis, he endorsed that when he said, it is our job to bring, quote, a deep transformation at all levels of our contemporary societies, individuals, corporations, institutions, and politics, end quote. So that's how we began, was trying to identify what is our purpose, what is our mission, what is our challenge, and then from there, all kinds of programmatic responses really have developed. Our first step, though, is to help define what is Catholic social teaching. Absent a canonical statement that defines the doctrine, there are a lot of interpretations of what Catholic social teaching is. So we spent 4 years developing a normative canon of Catholic social teaching with 2 deans of theology at the Catholic University of America, with our bishop and cardinal in the US, with other theologians, with people from the Greg and the Lateran in Rome, and also with the Vatican. And if on our website, you can see this definition of a normative canon of Catholic social teaching, which we then teach at a master's level at the Catholic University of America. Our fourth iteration is coming up. And you can see that on the website. It basically says Catholic social teaching is built on three principles: human dignity, solidarity, and subsidiarity. And off that are some major themes: the common good, preferential option for the poor, universal destination of goods, and the right of private property. And then we focus on the three structures of society that John Paul introduced. He introduced the culture part. Before that, the church always focused on politics and economics. John Paul introduced culture as even the more important element that we need to focus on. And then we also then try to apply that to current issues. On the website, we've got major statements, if you wish, on the church's positions on abortion, dignity of work, family, racism, climate change, ecology, et cetera, et cetera. So we spent a lot of time about evangelizing, first defining what is Catholic social teaching, evangelizing what it is through courses, and then getting it out, and especially in the last 3 years with a major web and social media strategy. Again, see us on Facebook, LinkedIn. We dropped off of Twitter. It's a barren place. And we really are trying now to get to the next generation on social media and through the website. We have the course and also by national presentations. We've made major presentations at the Catholic Medical Association on Catholic social teaching. Archbishop Le Pen, we've worked with your brother Bishop Lucas, Archbishop in Omaha, where we came out and had a 2-day seminar with all his priests on what is Catholic social teaching. Many kinds of things like that over the years. But let me just stop there and say thank you for inviting me, Cecil, to be part of this, and to wish you all the best. And we are at your disposal to help you in any way, and look forward to it. So thank you, and I don't know how long I went, but I hope it wasn't too long.
Thank you so much, Bob. And I realize that Fred is also online with us and may be able to join us as a panelist in a moment here, because we're going to switch from a speaker view to a gallery view. So all of you who've been attending so far and just seeing a few of us can see the others who are here as well. So Bob, thanks so much for that. I'm just going to launch another poll. And then, so one of the things you may be asking yourself is, so what next? Where do we go from here? What are CAPP-Canada's plans? And we certainly have many ideas, but rather than share them right now, although we might mention a few before the end of this, we really want to take the time to kind of to hear your questions, not just questions, but also, if put briefly, ideas which we can share as well. So you can do that all through the Q&A. But before we get to there, I'm just going to switch over into the gallery view here, and Danielle will introduce other members of our team. Now, some members are sort of working in the background and don't have their cameras on, and others are by phone. And we've got a couple of members of our team who couldn't be here today because they're in a completely different time zone on the other side of the planet. So, but here we are.
La préparation de cette session aujourd'hui a impliqué beaucoup de personnes. Et puis, sûrement, votre support, Robert, nous a aidés au début quand on ne savait pas du tout dans quelle direction on allait. Tout était nouveau pour Cécile et moi. Et puis, votre appui, vos explications, votre patience avec nous a beaucoup aidés. Donc, il y a des gens que vous voyez maintenant dans cette mosaïque qui nous ont beaucoup aidés. Nous avons Marc Saint-Martin, et qui est avec nous ici. Et nous avons peut-être faire un grand sourire ou un petit Daniel Santori, that we have here. Nous avons aussi Georges Servinka, merci Georges, qui nous coach. Nous avons Fred, que nous voyons ici aussi. Bonjour Fred.
From
Nous avons
CAPP USA.
CAPP USA et nous avons Paul Mullen, encore une fois. Merci beaucoup, Paul, qui nous aide beaucoup avec la technologie. Et nous avons aussi Mathieu Marquardt. Quand je pense à Mathieu, je pense que c'est le sage et qui nous apaise et qui nous donne toujours de bons conseils. Nous avons aussi April Lee. On ne vous voit pas, mais aussi contribue à tout ce qui arrive. Et nous avons aussi Marco Ottoni, que nous ne voyons pas, mais qui est aussi un membre qui nous aide beaucoup. À toutes ces personnes-là et plusieurs autres nous ont aidés dans les premiers instants de ce chapitre et puis ont été avec nous jusqu'à aujourd'hui. Et tout ce qui est présenté devant vous, c'est grâce à ces personnes-là que c'est possible. Alors, on vous remercie. Mais il faut penser aussi que CAPP-Canada, ce n'est pas un regroupement d'experts en doctrine sociale catholique. Pas du tout. C'est un regroupement de personnes qui veulent apprendre. Et ensemble, nous apprenons beaucoup à chaque fois que nous rencontrions. Donc, ce n'est pas seulement nous ne cherchons pas des experts, nous cherchons des gens avec un grand cœur qui veulent apprendre, qui veulent l'appliquer et puis qui veulent essayer de changer leur société et puis d'inviter d'autres personnes partout au Canada. Comme vous voyez, nous respectons le bilinguisme du Canada. Alors, nous invitons des gens à nous rejoindre, à faire de ce chapitre canadien un chapitre qui peut influencer notre société. Alors, c'est ça, je pense que nous allons être bientôt prêts pour les questions et je te donne l'antenne.
So, yes, we'll just open the floor now to questions, and we're just pulling up the. Actually, the most recent question that just came in, I'll start with that because it's a very good one. Are there any plans to establish campus-based chapters of CAPP-Canada? Now, this is a great idea. What could that look like? How do we work with those already on campuses? Catholic chaplaincies on campus, Catholic Christian Outreach, and other groups as well. How can we work with them, whether it's establishing chapters or partnering with existing chaplaincies and Catholic universities or study centers, Newman centers? There's a lot that we can do there, and we're basically looking for people who can not only bring forward ideas like this, but also help implement them. So that's where we're at it. Yes.
C'est ça, je suis bien d'accord, c'est une très bonne suggestion. Alors, s'il y a des personnes qui aimeraient travailler sur ce projet-là avec nous, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter.
So perhaps, Danielle, we can swap on the questions. Do you want to, there was one for Archbishop Letin there.
Go ahead, you can read it. Vas-y.
Okay. So let's see. As you observe right from the start, we are engaging here in a new online style of communication. The Bible has shown us how to walk, but there are no computers in the Bible. Not just computers, but so much modern technology has resulted in profound ethical new questions. Can we use our technology as a tool to build community, spread the gospel, and cast the light of the world?
I think what we went through with COVID helps us to see that we can use technology, but nothing can replace presence, personal contacts. But it's a powerful tool. It's a tool. It's not an end. It's a means to an end. And during the pandemic, I was thinking, talking to myself, let's say, and I was had it happened, I don't know, 20 years ago, it wouldn't have been the same. So the technology was there at the right time, so to help alleviate the loneliness of many people. So I think it's a plus, it's a tool, but it's an important tool.
There's something else that could be added to that, and I'm going to ask Danielle to make sure I stay brief on this, because as a historian, I often add a lot of footnotes. So, Rerum Novarum, the title of the first encyclical, what does it mean? It's the first words of that encyclical on the new things. What new things? Jürgen Osterhammel, author of a massive volume on the 19th century, refers to that that volume. The title is The Transformation of the World. Huge changes in the 19th century, and that's where this whole modern Catholic social teaching comes out of. But you know, it used to be that, you know, from one generation to the next, you would live more or less the same way that your great-great-grandparents lived. But that was changing in the 19th century, and all the more now, even from ourselves to our children and grandchildren. It's not just rapid change, but accelerating change. And one of the challenges that's always been at the front and center of Catholic social teaching is to discern challenges as they're emerging. We don't know fully yet what these challenges are. And when I first attended a CAPP event in Rome, the theme was digital technology and human dignity. What are the challenges to human dignity arising from the transformation of our world? And also, what are the new opportunities to enhancing human dignity, to strengthening human dignity? So these are creating more solidarity. So I'm going to stop there and go back to other questions because we want to focus on those. So Andrea, maybe I won't give names just because I didn't give people the option of anonymous questions, but here, what specific projects are CAPP-Canada planning? Maybe we could speak briefly about, well, we are looking for ideas. We don't want to go into great detail about many of them, but we are looking to have a virtual webinar series course in Catholic social teaching, probably starting in November and going till the end of May, at least that. And it's not that we would not come back after that, but this will be a first course. And the idea is to build up towards perhaps bringing a delegation to Rome for the 30th anniversary of the foundation of CAPP, which will be in early June. So that was June 3rd, 1993, 30 years next year. And a smaller group of us are going this October. And then beyond that, we have some certainly other ideas, but we will share some of those ideas in a follow-up survey to this event, and also be looking for more detailed answers from you about your ideas as well. So
j'ai une autre question ici.
yes.
Je vais la traduire et puis vous l'entendez en anglais, mais je la lis de l'anglais au français. Donc, une question qui nous dit: l'Église catholique est internationale, mais elle est divisée en diocèses selon la géographie. Les ordres religieux, eux, sont plus transnationaux. Alors, on se demandait, la question est, est-ce que avec CAPP-Canada, on a une organisation qui est reconnue par le Vatican, internationale? Alors, est-ce que ce n'est pas quelque chose de nouveau? Et puis, quel est l'avantage d'avoir cette organisation qui va d'un océan à l'autre? Ben, je pense que c'est assez. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres groupes? Donc, je ne pourrais pas commenter sur d'autres groupes, mais je pense que ce que CAPP-Canada essaie de faire concernant la diffusion de la doctrine catholique, sociale, est unique. Il y a sûrement d'autres groupes. Elle est unique, mais dans le sens que nous sommes rattachés avec la Fondation au Vatican. Et alors, nous avons la chance de pouvoir obtenir de l'information, de l'aide, du support d'autres groupes à travers le monde. Donc, de ce côté-là, CAPP-Canada est unique et nous faisons partie d'un organisme qui est au Vatican et à qui le pape parle régulièrement. Donc, je pense que ça, c'est vraiment unique de ce côté-là.
So, there's one question here. How are we different from other promoters of Catholic social teaching, right? So, Caritas International, Legatus, US Solidarity Party. So, what CAPP does is to bring people together to learn about Catholic social teaching, to contribute to a deepened understanding of Catholic social teaching, and then as a secondary part of its mission, also to help and of course, to make it more, to make others more aware of Catholic social teaching and how we can practice this and implement it in our lives. But what CAPP does not do is launch an initiative to create a homeless shelter, right? So Caritas does that. They fund projects. They do these things. Many of the people in this group. So I'm just going to put a few people on the spot. Marco's on the line here. And I remember we were first chatting about CAPP, and he spoke about, not knowing Catholic social teaching, but not in great depth. But of course, he can bring so much to this, because this is, Marco has started up and is a founder of the Palliative Care Center, St. Raphael Palliative Care Center in Montreal. So joining CAPP, as I mentioned to him at the time, was a way to kind of come to more deeply understand the Catholic social teaching that he's already putting into practice. So to learn to articulate what he's doing more deeply in connection with the gospel and Catholic social teaching, in order to also enhance it and to share that with others. George on the call is working on the restoration of a creek that is currently very polluted on the island of Montreal, and he's pulled together a group of all the business owners along and property owners along the path that this creek follows, and they're working together to transform that. So very much in sync with the Laudato Si again. So what CAPP does is it creates a space for people like George and Marco to come together to share how can we respond to the call of Catholic social teaching in our areas. So it's a place to connect with others. It's also a place where you can generate ideas, but CAPP itself will not be implementing those ideas. Our mission is very much one of deepening the understanding, providing principles. We're not aligned with one political party or another. We're also very insistent upon the importance of respecting that wide scope of freedom. There are many solutions being proposed to a lot of the challenging issues that are rising. And what we do not want to do is give the sense that Catholic social teaching aligns itself narrowly with one political program or another. What Catholic social teaching does is offer a very clear set of principles by which we can measure and assess the merits of any political party, economic proposal, social proposal, grassroots, whatever it is. So this is a space to come together and work through some of those challenging questions. And it's also an opportunity to work against the tremendous polarization that we see in our society, where it's very difficult to have discussions about very different points of view of what the problems are and how to respond to them. So I hope that answers that question well. And there's Danielle, do you want to pick another one? And maybe we can also pass them off to others and as well to answer. But
définitivement. Au sujet de la doctrine sociale catholique, on voit, je pense que ça peut nous amener à être plus sensibles à ce que nous observons dans la société. Donc, est-ce que le cas d'itinérance de tellement de personnes dans les grandes villes au Canada, à Montréal, à Toronto, un peu partout, est-ce que c'est un problème où on devrait peut-être plus s'impliquer, on devrait questionner les actions qui sont faites, donc on voit des victimes. Donc, on se demande, on demande ici, est-ce que ce serait un projet pour un groupe qui va étudier ça de près afin que ces erreurs ne se reproduisent plus. Donc, on demande ici dans cette question-là avec Cory, Nicole et Monseigneur Lépine, qu'est-ce que vous pensez de l'implication des gens qui sont un petit peu plus connaissants de cette doctrine? Est-ce qu'ils doivent s'impliquer au niveau politique, au niveau social? De quelle façon? On demande à Cory, on demande à Nicole et Monseigneur Lépine en particulier.
Monseigneur Lépine, est-ce que vous voulez commencer?
Alors, je peux plonger. Disons, la doctrine sociale de l'Église, elle n'est pas faite pour être, disons, la spécialité d'un groupe particulier. Elle est faite pour inspirer tous les baptisés. Donc, il ne s'agit pas dans ce sens-là d'un mouvement qui agit dans la société, mais d'un milieu de vie qui se nourrit de la doctrine sociale de l'Église. Puis après, les gens de différents horizons qui s'en nourrissent peuvent retourner dans le monde de l'éducation, dans le monde politique, dans le monde économique, dans le monde des organismes à but non lucratif, ou dans le monde de la vie communautaire, et nourris de la doctrine sociale de l'Église, apporter un regard nouveau qui sait partir des belles choses qui existent, parce qu'il y a aussi des belles réalités qui nous précèdent, mais en même temps renforcer le beau qui nous précède, mais aussi ajouter, à approfondir, à affermir le sens de la dignité de tout être humain. Donc, c'est vraiment appelé à rayonner à travers la vie des personnes qui peuvent bénéficier. Donc, dans ce sens-là, le CAP, c'est comment, pour CAP, la question se pose, c'est comment faire rayonner la doctrine sociale de l'Église dans le tissu social. C'est plus ça que d'avoir un projet particulier d'intervention, je pense. C'est peut-être pas exclusif, là, mais c'est ça je pense que c'est la vision première de Jean-Paul II.
Yes, that's echoes what I had said earlier. And I mean, there is the one perhaps exception in terms of specific action is the component of our mission to support the charitable works of the Holy Father. So for example, with the war in Ukraine, there was a special appeal to CAP members to support the work of the intervention of the Holy Father in Ukraine with I think it was a medical assistance that was being provided. But there is a good question related to this. I understand that part of the revenues are given to the works of CAP, so the contributions of members and others are given to the works of the Holy Father. How much is actually used from the annual fee of members for the charities of the Holy Father, and what are these charities and where? And I think for the charities and where, those details, Bob, this may be a question best answered by you. Yes.
Yeah, excellent question. The foundation's operating expenses are fully covered by the fees of membership. The Holy Father's donations are either coming from a special appeal or as a result of the investment corpus that Anna Maria mentioned, where 50 million euros was given initially to start us up. That amount is now between 5 and 6 million euro. The proceeds of that are fully dedicated to the Holy Father's charities, and there's a brick wall, if you wish, between the two. Operating, nothing comes from the Holy Father's corpus for charity to the operation side. So the operations are fully run by the donations, and the Holy Father's charities by the corpus and by special appeals. Does that cover it?
Yes, thank you. So another question here. Well, very simple question. Will future events be held in person, virtual, or both? And it will be both. So a virtual course online, but we envision at some point bringing people to Rome to attend. So we've got a small group going, including some of our newest members. So right now, our full members of the CAP Foundation in Rome, because we do not exist yet separately from a Canadian juridical point of view. We do not exist separately in Canada. We are simply a chapter of a Vatican-based organization. We are looking at getting incorporated in Canada. That's a process. CAP USA has done that. That is one of our next steps, and that will allow us to do a lot more on several fronts. It'll make our work much easier. But for now, so to get back to the point, we are inviting people to go to Rome. We've got a small group going this October, a larger group hopefully next June. But we hope to begin organizing our own events and also bringing delegations elsewhere. So CAP USA organizes an annual event. And so for many Canadians, it's actually closer to go there than to go to another part of Canada. So there will be many in-person events we hope to do, and also create spaces and opportunities for local chapters to come into being. So in Vancouver, Halifax, perhaps a virtual group connecting people across Nunavut and the Northwest Territories and Yukon. But opportunities for smaller gatherings of a more informal nature within a city where there are a number of CAPP members and friends established there. So I think that's important to state.
Une autre personne nous demande, est-ce que la personne demande de l'information au sujet des autres chapitres de CAPP autour du monde et quels sont les chapitres qui ont eu le plus de succès et quelles sont les activités qui semblent le plus attirer les gens. Peut-être que Robert, encore, vous avez beaucoup plus d'expérience que nous ici. Peut-être que vous pouvez décrire ce qui arrive un petit peu partout dans quelques endroits du monde.
Yes, be happy to. As I said earlier, each chapter takes on the charisms of their founders and their country, and they really are all different. Our experience in the U.S., failures and successes are all available to share with you. And we've had a role more of advising the German chapter when they started. We spent a lot of time just talking. But each chapter is completely different, I have to tell you. US is not Germany, it's not France, it's not Italy, it's not Spain, and won't be Australia. So really, they take on a life of their own in terms of programming and the directions they go in. And I think if you look to CAPP France, there's it's a very senior management focused group there. A lot of the elites from the best Paris schools, and they meet in Paris at the Benedictine Center, and have very high intellectual content and practical content. The UK has a couple of members from the House of Lords, and also appears and comes from a very kind of a senior group. The German chapter is down to earth, I would say, working people with academics. There's a lot of business people, Mittelstand-sized companies and their representatives, and a lot of academic support because Cardinal Marx is the national ecclesiastical counselor there and brings the ability to bring a lot of thinking into the group. Spain is broken down into individual chapters rather than one central one. They have Madrid, Valencia, I forget the other two. So they are all taking on their own life, as will you. Is that helpful? And
Je pense que ça répond bien à la question. Merci.
thank you.
Yes. So now, one other question was, what are some of the specific things that we might aim to, or what are the ways in which we're looking for people to contribute? So on this front, it depends on what ideas we come forward, what options we look at in terms of next steps. I mentioned a few, but certainly we're looking to try to get smaller groups established, to broaden the scope and the national representation of our team, and also one person comments that surprised there's no mention of the TRC. So if you've gone and read the longer reflection, I had a shorter reflection published in English and in French on the papal visit in light of Catholic social teaching that entered into that particular the TRC, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, right? So I had a reflection that entered into this question in a lot more detail. Our CAPP-Canada website has a lengthier, more detailed reflection on that point. We are bringing this to Rome, and we're sharing a 5-minute reflection on the papal visit. And one of the first events that many of our members have talked about organizing is a symposium looking at Catholic social teaching and Indigenous peoples in Canada, and the issues and challenges that we face in terms of reconciliation that have been highlighted by the TRC. So one of the items would be looking at the TRC calls to action and seeing how, where there's an intersection with Catholic social teaching. So I hope that responds that one question there. And I realize we are wrapping up. We've got 4 minutes left. So I think, Danielle, it is for you to thank everyone for joining us, and Archbishop Lepine to say a closing prayer. So.
Quel plaisir d'avoir été avec vous pendant 2 heures cet après-midi. J'espère que pour certains, vous avez découvert complètement ce que c'était la doctrine, et pour d'autres, vous avez découvert un groupe qui voudrait continuer cette réflexion. Nous voulons continuer à avoir des contacts avec vous. Donc, on a vos courriels, on va vous tenir informés de tout ce qui va arriver. Et puis, on remercie Saint Jean-Paul II d'avoir été avec nous aujourd'hui, je suis certaine, et puis des inspirations qu'il nous a données. Donc, merci à tous nos présentateurs aujourd'hui, et merci à Anna Maria qui, malgré Tarantola, malgré les souffrances, elle était avec nous depuis le début. Elle nous a donné des conseils, des fois elle nous a chicanés, mais elle nous a remis toujours dans la bonne direction. C'est difficile au début de s'adapter à quelque chose qu'on ne connaît pas entièrement, mais c'était avec elle était un guide très exceptionnel pour chacun de nous. Alors, nous aimerions conclure cet après-midi par une prière avec Monseigneur Lépine, et puis nous vous remercions de tout cœur d'avoir été avec nous, et j'espère que vous allez participer aux prochains événements, et n'hésitez pas à nous envoyer des suggestions s'il y a des choses que vous pensez pourraient être intéressantes. Si vous voulez être bénévole pour autre chose, absolument.
And one last housekeeping item is just to add admin@capcanada.ca to your address book so that you don't miss our emails. Make sure that they don't go to spam. And then Archbishop Lepine.
C'est votre tour.
Alors, il y a une messe pour le développement des peuples. Alors, je prie avec la prière pour le développement des peuples. Seigneur, tu as voulu que tous les peuples aient une même origine et tu veux les réunir dans une seule famille. Fais que les hommes et femmes se reconnaissent les frères et sœurs et travaillent dans la solidarité au développement de tous les peuples, afin que soient reconnus les droits de toute personne et que la communauté humaine grandisse dans la dignité et la paix. Amen.
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 Et les voilà, nous sommes à la fin de cette session. Merci tout le monde, et on espère se revoir très bientôt.